Hi, this is Pat McNamara, and this is Catholic History in less than 5 minutes. Today we're going to look at the 900s AD, known as the Dark Century. Perhaps the symbol of this era is the Cadaver Synod, held by Pope Stephen VI in the year 897. Stephen dug up the corpse of his hated predecessor Formosus, and found Formosus guilty of perjury and other crimes. Now Formosus's friends deposed and murdered Stephen. Between 872 and 1012, a third of all popes died under mysterious circumstances. Leo V, for example, was only pope for a few weeks in 903 AD when he was murdered by his successor, Sergius III. How did such a state of affairs come into place? The breakdown of Charlemagne's empire had an effect on Rome, where there was constant warfare between the various Italian nobles. An object of their fighting was the Papacy, which would give them control of Rome. They dominated papal elections and put their relatives on the throne of Peter. The Roman noble Theophylactus and his family became pope makers. In 914, his daughter Marozia appointed John X and had him suffocated when he tried to break away from her control. She then appointed his successors Leo VI, Stephen VII, and her own son John XI, whose father was Pope Sergius III. Meanwhile, in the east, the emperor's 16-year-old son became Patriarch of Constantinople. After Marozia, Alberic II made himself Prince of the Romans and appointed 5 more popes, the last being his son John XII, 955 to 963 AD. One good thing that happened during this period was the creation of the monastery of Cluny, whose church was then the largest in Christendom. Despite the bleak situation in Rome, reform was going on in the church at the monastery level. Cluny was to be free of secular rulers' influence. It was the greatest religious house of the Middle Ages. By the middle of the 1000s AD, there were Cluniac houses all over Europe. It wasn't famous so much for its asceticism as it was for its beauty and its orderliness, its splendid architecture, and its elaborate celebrations of the Liturgy of the Hours and of the Mass. If you've heard the term McMansions, you might think of the Cluniac monasteries as McMonasteries, but much, much nicer. Going back to Rome, it was the German Holy Roman Emperors who counteracted the influence of the Roman nobility on the papacy. Otto III restored order to Rome, but he also named his cousin Bruno pope. After his death, the Roman nobles took over again, making popes as they pleased. Eamon Duffy, the historian of the papacy, describes the situation well. Whatever the grandiose theoretical claims of popes, the reality was that they were harassed Italian prince-bishops, desperately trying to preserve the territory of St. Peter, sometimes responding to, but never initiating reforms which were beginning to stir within Christendom. All that, however, was about to change.